relief when your backed up gut has you feeling bleh.
Yeah, man, shout out right to the super villain, but I don't know what's wrong with his volume.
People have eaten whatever they could find to survive, but some of history's most ingenious meals have been completely forgotten, while others were so bizarre they deserve a second look. From creative wartime rations to surprisingly resourceful recipes, we're uncovering them all today. Starting off our list, we have squirrel stew, something that was actually extremely common to be witnessed to during the Great Depression.
It was
Now,
foods
we don't
that got
really need
banned
to tell you
in
that
the
all we associate
1920s.
with the Depression is
That was the
basically a
first one.
chronic state of
It was
financial.
like foods that got banned, food and beverages and stuff that got banned in the 1920s, and it's gonna pop up. And then this video is 25 forgotten poor man meals no one makes anymore. And the person that does it, that page is that it's on is Vintage Lifestyle USA. And he got like a flag on his profile. Back to the video. Like, share, subscribe, though. Sabrina.
What you might not know is that people reacted to the circumstances they were PT in by picking up some interesting skills. And among berries, mushrooms, and wild game, people also began to hunt for squirrels. Yep, all those post-apocalyptic thrillers got something right. In times of dire need and stress, people definitely do turn to squirrels. Making squirrel stew was not something that had gotten popular just in rural areas and the outskirts of civilization in America. It was also something that had begun to become popular in urban areas as well. But really, one has to ask, how does a squirrel taste? The stew that people would make back then was as poor man's food as you could get. So we're really just working with the bare bones flavor of the meat itself. Most people describe squirrel meat as being mild, salty, and tender, but not overly gamey. So I think as far as taste goes, it passes. Now, I'm not really too sure what you've heard about hardtack, but as far as do-it-yourself crackers go, this one is pretty hard to beat. Take some water, salt, and flour, which people have been finding substitutes for since my great-grandmother was alive, and just a little bit of patience, and you can make a pretty long-lasting cracker. It's a wonder what a basic combination of pantry staples can do for you. This is something that's been common information among soldiers, sailors, vagabonds, and traveling nomads alike. Hardtack is something that has deep roots across most periods of American history, pre-modern times. One fine example of that is the Civil War, since it was something soldiers ate and relied on because it was so easy to carry around. One downside of it, though, was that it happened to be so hard that you had to pretty much soak it in something each time before you could take a bite, so they'd have to keep water handy. Another one was that they seemed to attract worms, but hey, for food that is probably actually worth less than some dirt, I think you can't really do much better than this. Now, hobo stew, on the other hand, was this Depression-era classic that every worker, farmer, and struggling citizen was well acquainted with. This one has the usual criminals, too. A bunch of vegetables that you barely foraged, scraps of meat you've been holding onto for weeks now, and whatever bits of canned goods you have left all put into a pot and roasted over a warm fire. It was something that emphasized not needing any fancy kitchen tools or appliances like a stove or oven. A lot of homeless culture was dependent on recipes like hobo stew, which could be made with pretty much anything. See, back then, they also used to keep fires going all the time to help shelter from the harsh temperatures. And nowadays, you have a lot of anti-homeless architecture, so it's not so common. But railway tracks used to be full of people cooking up this stew. Unemployed workers from the Depression, the Dust Bowl, and people struggling with the inflation from the war were all pretty familiar with it too. It's an easy stew that adapts to pretty much whatever you have in your bag, and the rest